The Dravex were, without question, the most terrifying species the galaxy had ever produced. They were 7 feet of pure muscle, razor claws, and bad attitude wrapped in naturally armored exoskeletons. Their 4 eyes could see in spectrums most species couldn't comprehend, and their sense of smell could detect fear hormones from 3 kilometers away. Evolution had crafted them into the perfect killing machines, and the Dravex were very proud of this resume. Another successful culling, Fleet Commander Grez announced, watching the view screen as the last resistance on Proxima 9 crumbled beneath their assault. That makes 18 planets this cycle. 19, corrected Sub-Commander Vex, who had the annoying habit of keeping exact statistics. You're forgetting the moon colony on Tyrillian Beta. Moons don't count, Grez growled, his dorsal spines flaring with irritation. They're basically space debris with delusions of grandeur. The command deck of the Dravex flagship Inevitable Doom fell silent, except for the occasional beep of conquest metrics being updated. The Dravex military naming convention lacked subtlety, but compensated with accuracy. What's next on our glorious path of universal dominance? Asked Tactical Officer Drun, who had spent the entire invasion playing what appeared to be space Tetris on his console. When you're the apex predator of the galaxy, invasions become somewhat routine. Grez tapped his claw against the star map. High Command has identified a backwater planet in Sector 8472. The locals call it Earth. Intelligence suggests it's populated by a species of bipedal mammals with no natural armor, pathetic sensory capabilities, and technology that's barely achieved interplanetary travel. Sounds boring, Drun yawned, displaying 3 rows of serrated teeth. Why even bother? Resources, Vex interjected, pulling up a holographic display. The planet has abundant water, diverse biospheres, and something called pizzas that the intelligence scouts found most intriguing. Besides, Grez added with a predatory grin, it's been too long since we've had a proper feast. These humans will make excellent hunting practice for our younger warriors. The assembled Dravex officers chittered in agreement, the sound reminiscent of knives being sharpened against concrete. Set course for Earth, Grez commanded. Standard invasion protocol. We'll send a scout ship first to assess defenses, though I doubt these humans will present anything we haven't crushed 1,000 times before. Little did the Dravex know that this seemingly insignificant blue planet harbored the galaxy's most unpredictable, stubborn and downright bizarre species, one that hadn't gotten the memo about being at the bottom of the galactic food chain. The Dravex scout ship in pending dismemberment dropped out of hyperspace just beyond Earth's moon, its cloaking technology making it invisible to the primitive human radar systems. At least, that's what the operations manual claimed. Captain Kroll, we've been detected, reported Sensor Officer Jex with a puzzled expression. The humans are hailing us on 17 different frequencies, including something called TikTok Live. Impossible, Kroll snapped, his jaw mandibles clicking in agitation. Their technology is barely out of the Stone Age. They shouldn't even know we're here. They're sending what appears to be a welcome message, Jex continued. And wait, they're offering us something called a discount code for meal delivery. Put it on screen, Kroll ordered, his curiosity momentarily overriding standard invasion protocol. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a human female in a suit standing behind a podium emblazoned with United Nations Space Command. Greetings, visitors from beyond our solar system, she said, smiling broadly. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth. We've prepared diplomatic accommodations and would be honored to discuss cultural exchange. Also, if you arrived hungry, we've partnered with Grubhub for your convenience. The Dravex crew exchanged confused glances. This wasn't how prey species typically reacted to their arrival. They're supposed to be running and screaming, muttered Weapons Officer Draze. What's wrong with them? A clever ruse, obviously, Kroll decided. We'll play along briefly to assess their defenses. Prepare a landing party. 12 hours later, the diplomatic meeting was going spectacularly badly. What do you mean you want to sample some humans for nutritional analysis? Asked Ambassador Rodriguez, his polite smile becoming increasingly strained. That's not how diplomacy works here. It's standard Dravex procedure, Kroll explained, genuinely confused by the humans' objection. We consume representatives from each new species to understand their biological composition. It helps us determine the most efficient harvesting methods. Yeah, that's gonna be a hard no from Earth, Rodriguez replied. Maybe try our catering table instead. The mini quiches are excellent. Kroll's patience, never his strongest quality, finally snapped. Enough of this charade. We are the Dravex apex predators of the galaxy. Your planet is claimed for the Dravex Empire, and your species will serve as our next feast. The assembled humans didn't scream or cower as expected. Instead, they collectively sighed as if this were a minor inconvenience, rather than an existential threat. Always with the feasting, Rodriguez muttered. Can't we meet one alien species that doesn't immediately try to eat us? What happened next would become infamous in Dravek's military history. As Kroll lunged toward the nearest human diplomat, a small device on the ambassador's wrist discharged what the Draveks would later learn was called pepper spray directly into Kroll's 4 eyes. The mighty Dravek's captain, conqueror of 12 star systems and devourer of countless inferior species, dropped to the floor, rolling and shrieking in a most undignified manner. "What have you done to me?" he wailed, his fearsome claws now frantically rubbing at his streaming eyes. "What biological weapon is this?" "It's basically spicy water," explained a security officer, who was casually restraining 2 other Draveks with what appeared to be glorified zip ties. "We use it at frat parties." The remaining Dravek's crew, witnessing their fearsome captain reduced to a whimpering mess by spicy water, attempted to deploy their energy weapons, only to discover that the humans had somehow already removed their power cells and replaced them with something called A batteries that were still in the package, if you want the receipt. By the time the diplomatic disaster concluded, the entire Dravek scouting party had been captured, their supposedly superior technology confiscated, and their dignity thoroughly compromised. "You'll regret this," Kroll shouted as they were escorted back to their ship. "The full might of the Dravek's empire will descend upon your miserable planet." "Looking forward to it," Rodriguez called after them cheerfully. "Next time bring better weapons. And maybe some antihistamines." As the scout ship limped back toward Dravek space, its crew sat in stunned silence, trying to comprehend how their routine conquest had gone so catastrophically wrong. The grand chamber of inevitable conquest fell silent as Captain Kroll finished his humiliating report. The 7 supreme predators of the Dravek's council sat on their elevated thrones, their expressions moving from disbelief to outrage to something rarely seen on Dravek's faces: confusion. "Let me understand this correctly," said Supreme Predator Razek, her voice dangerously calm. "Your elite scout team was defeated by condiments." "Not just condiments, Exalted One," Kroll replied, his scales flushing a mortified purple. "They also had these primitive restraints that somehow our molecular disruptors couldn't penetrate. And they disabled our quantum weapons while offering us something called complementary Wi-Fi." Supreme Predator Gorks, oldest and most battle-scarred of the council, slammed his massive fist against his throne. "Preposterous. No species has resisted the Draveks in 12,000 cycles. These humans must have obtained advanced technology from the Zeltarian collective." "Actually," Kroll said, wincing as he called up a holographic display, "the technology is entirely their own. It's just unconventional. They've developed thousands of different weapons, but instead of focusing on scale and power, they've optimized for what they call hilarious effectiveness. This device, for example," he pointed to an image, "is called a taser. It temporarily overrides nervous systems using simple electrical current." "But that's primitive," sputtered Council Member Vriz. "We abandoned such basic approaches millennia ago." "And yet," Kroll noted miserably, 3 of my warriors were incapacitated by them while the humans recorded vertical videos for their entertainment networks." The council chambers erupted into overlapping arguments, with various supreme predators proposing increasingly dramatic responses ranging from obliterate their entire solar system to pretend we never found them and strike this embarrassment from our records. "Silence!" roared Supreme Predator Thex, rising to her full imposing height. "This situation clearly calls for a measured tactical response. These humans have simply caught us off guard with their unorthodox approaches. A proper invasion force will quickly put them in their rightful place, beneath our claws." "With respect, Exalted One," Kroll ventured, "I'm not certain conventional tactics will." "Your certainty is no longer required, Captain," Thex interrupted. "You are dismissed, permanently." As Kroll was escorted away to face the traditional Dravek's punishment for failure, reassignment to food service, the council turned to the holographic display of Earth rotating slowly before them. "We need our finest tactical mind for this operation," Gorks declared. "Someone who understands unconventional warfare." "Commander Krell," suggested Razek. "He successfully conquered the shape-shifting morphoids of Epsilon Eridani by thinking creatively." A murmur of agreement passed through the council. Commander Krell had a reputation for being slightly unhinged, even by Dravek standards, but his battle record was impeccable. "Summon Commander Krell," ordered Thex. "And mobilize the 3rd Invasion Fleet. We will show these humans the true meaning of terror." 20 minutes later, Commander Krell strode into the council chamber, his ceremonial battle armor adorned with trophies from 100 conquered worlds. "Supreme Ones," he growled, dropping to one knee. You honor me with this summons. Commander Krell, Thex began. We face an unusual situation. A species of soft, fragile mammals has somehow repelled our scout force using methods that defy conventional understanding. Krell's expression didn't change, but his eyes gleamed with interest. Unconventional enemies require unconventional strategies, exalted ones. Give me the Third Fleet, and I will deliver these humans to you as the main course at the next victory feast. The Third Fleet is yours, Thex declared. Do not return until Earth is conquered, or do not return at all. As Commander Krell exited the chamber, Council Member Vriz leaned toward Gorks. Do you think he can succeed where Krell failed so spectacularly? Gorks watched the commanders retreating back. Krell is our most adaptable warrior. If anyone can overcome these bizarre humans, it's him. What the Council didn't know, what they couldn't possibly understand, was that adaptable by Dravex standards was still hopelessly rigid compared to the chaotic creativity of humanity. Commander Krell was about to learn this lesson the hard way. The Dravex invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect attack formation, 200 warships arranged in the traditional fangs of inevitable death pattern that had heralded doom for countless civilizations. At the center, the massive dreadnought Final Meal housed Commander Krell and the elite Dravex command staff. Report, Krell demanded, his claws tapping impatiently on his command throne. Earth defenses are peculiar, Commander, replied Tactical Officer Zren. They appear to have noticed our arrival, but their response is not following any recognizable defense protocol. Explain, Krell growled. They're broadcasting something to us. On all frequencies. Zren looked genuinely perplexed. It appears to be a human entertainment program called Welcome to Earth, so you've decided to invade. Put it on screen, Krell ordered, wondering if this was another human trick. The view screen flickered to life, showing a grinning human male in a garish outfit. Hello, potentially hostile alien armada, the human announced cheerfully. If you're seeing this, you're probably thinking about invading Earth. Before you do, we've prepared this helpful orientation video. First up, Earth's defensive capabilities, presented by our Secretary of Defense. The image changed to show a serious-looking human standing in front of various military vehicles. To our extraterrestrial visitors, the Secretary began. Please be advised that Earth maintains a policy of peaceful first contact. However, should you choose aggression, he smiled thinly. You should know that humans have spent roughly 95% of our recorded history figuring out innovative ways to kill each other. We've gotten quite good at it. Commander Krell snorted dismissively. Psychological warfare, primitive but expected. Launch the first wave of drop ships. Standard overwhelming force protocol. As 5,000 Dravex warriors descended toward Earth's major cities, the humans' peculiar broadcast continued, now showing various Earth weapons systems with captions like "This one's our favorite," and "Wait till you see what this baby can do." They're trying to intimidate us, Krell explained to his confused officers. A common tactic among prey species. They will break once our warriors make planetfall. The first drop ships landed in what humans called Central Park in New York City. The initial battle reports were concerning. Commander Communications Officer Drix called out, "First wave reports that humans are not following standard defense procedures. They're using something called internet flash mobs to coordinate civilian counterattacks." Civilians? Krell's mandibles clicked in confusion. Why would Prey send non-warriors into battle? Unknown, sir, but first wave reports that human civilians are proving problematic. They're using improvised weapons and something called parkour to outmaneuver our troops. The tactical display showed Dravex warriors, each worth 10 elite soldiers from any other species, being pelted with small explosive devices that First Wave had identified as homemade flashbangs courtesy of YouTube tutorials. This is absurd, Krell snarled. Deploy the Berserker squads. The elite Berserker units, genetically enhanced for maximum aggression, dropped into major human population centers, only to encounter what appeared to be organized resistance from human security forces, equipped with surprisingly effective countermeasures. Sir, reported an increasingly nervous Ren, the humans appear to have adapted their primitive projectile weapons to fire ammunition filled with a compound that hardens instantly upon contact with Dravex exoskeletons. They've only just encountered our biology. That's impossible, Krell roared. They're calling it Operation Bug Spray, sir, Drix added unhelpfully. And they've seemingly weaponized something called TikTok to coordinate globally. The situation deteriorated rapidly as reports flooded in from around the planet. In Tokyo, Dravex dropships were being disabled by traffic control systems that somehow interfaced with and overrode their navigation protocols. In Rio de Janeiro, elite infiltration teams found themselves subjected to something called tourist treatment, which involved being dragged into celebrations, force-fed local cuisine and adorned with festive clothing that interfered with their camouflage systems. In London, an entire battalion was immobilized when humans deployed what they called a proper queue, which the rule-obsessed Dravex found themselves unable to bypass due to deeply ingrained respect for ordered systems. "This is unprecedented," muttered Strategy Officer Vrex, watching as the tactical display showed more and more Dravex units falling into disarray. "They're not fighting like prey. They're not even fighting like predators. They're fighting like lunatics." Commander Krell's eyes narrowed as he studied the battle reports. The humans were using their apparent weaknesses as strengths. When Dravex forces adapted to one tactic, humans simply invented new ones on the spot. Enough of this, Krell decided. Commence orbital bombardment. Level their major cities. "Sir," Weapons Officer Trex interrupted, "our bombardment systems are being jammed by." "Sir, this can't be right." "Speak, officer." "By cat videos, sir. Billions of them flooding all communication channels. Our targeting systems can't distinguish between valid targets and something called Mr. Whisker's epic fail compilation." Krell stared at the view screen, watching as his carefully orchestrated invasion dissolved into chaos. For the first time in his decorated career, he felt something alien crawling up his spine, a sensation that the Dravex species had evolved beyond feeling eons ago. It was doubt. Commander Krell paced the command deck of the final meal, his claws leaving gouges in the metallic floor. 3 planetary rotations had passed since the invasion began, and the situation had progressed from concerning to catastrophic. The view screen displayed live feeds from across Earth, each one more bewildering than the last. "Explain to me," Krell demanded, his voice dangerously quiet, "how the mightiest invasion force in Dravex history is being defeated by creatures that look like undercooked larvae." Science Officer Mrix, who had been frantically analyzing human biology since the invasion began, cleared her throat nervously. "Commander, I believe I've identified several unusual characteristics that may explain the humans' effectiveness." "Proceed," Krell growled, his 4 eyes fixed intently on her. Mrix activated a holographic display showing human anatomical schematics. "First, humans possess extraordinary endurance capabilities. While they lack our strength and speed, they evolved as what they call persistence hunters. They can maintain moderate physical activity for periods that would exhaust even Dravex warriors." "Are you suggesting they can outlast us?" Krell asked incredulously. "Precisely, Commander. Our 3rd Battalion reported that after 18 hours of continuous combat, their human opponents showed minimal fatigue and were, quote, still making those infuriating joke sounds." The hologram shifted to show human brain scans. "More concerning is their neural architecture. Humans possess a uniquely chaotic cognitive pattern that makes their actions fundamentally unpredictable. Where Dravex minds follow logical, optimal pathways, human thought processes resemble, well, a liquid waste disposal system during a seismic event." "That's not possible," Strategy Officer Vrex interjected. "All sentient species develop ordered thinking. It's an evolutionary necessity." "Apparently not for humans," Mrix replied. "They routinely ignore optimal solutions in favor of what they term crazy ideas that just might work. Our tactical prediction algorithms are useless against them because they're not trying to win efficiently. They're trying to win entertainingly." Krell's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Any species should still have biological weaknesses we can exploit. That's the 3rd issue, Commander," Mrix continued, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Humans have an extraordinary adaptive immunity to toxins. They regularly and voluntarily consume substances that would kill most species, apparently for pleasure. They call it happy hour, an extra spicy challenge." The holographic display showed humans willingly consuming capsaicin-laden foods, alcohol, and caffeine, in quantities that made several junior officers visibly recoil. One human in Chicago neutralized an entire Dravex patrol by sharing something called moonshine with them. Mrix noted. "Our warriors are still unconscious. What about their technology?" Krell demanded. "Their weapons should be no match for our advanced systems. Their technology is perplexing, Commander," admitted Chief Engineer Krax, joining the conversation. "Human innovation doesn't follow a linear path like most species. Instead of perfecting one approach, they develop thousands of parallel solutions to the same problem, keeping whatever works regardless of theoretical elegance." The display showed dozens of human weapons, each utilizing different and often contradictory principles. Their global information network. This internet allows them to share ideas instantly across their planet. Cracks continued. When our forces deployed sonic disruptors in their Australia's region, humans had developed counter-systems before we finished the first attack wave. They're calling them noise-canceling headphones with death metal playlists. Krell smashed his fist into a nearby console, shattering it. No species adapts that quickly. It's impossible. There's one more factor, Mrix added hesitantly. Humans appear to derive psychological strength from what they call spite. When faced with overwhelming odds, instead of surrendering as any rational species would, they become more determined specifically because victory seems impossible. The view screen switched to live footage of humans in the ruins of a city called Moscow, where civilians were mounting a counterattack against Dravik's forces using repurposed kitchen appliances, construction equipment, and what appeared to be sports equipment. "Look at them," whispered Weapons Officer Trex with horrified fascination. "They're smiling." "Worse than that," Mrix corrected. "They're making memes about us." As if to illustrate her point, the communication system suddenly broadcasted what humans were calling Invasion Top 10 Fails Dravik's Edition, a compilation of the invasion force's most humiliating defeats set to upbeat music. "Commander," Communications Officer Drix reported, "we're receiving an encrypted transmission from High Command." The grim face of Supreme Predator Thex appeared on screen. "Commander Krell, your progress report is 3 cycles overdue. Explain your failure to subjugate these primitive mammals." Krell straightened his posture. "Exalted One, we face unprecedented resistance. These humans—" "I'm not interested in excuses, Commander," Thex interrupted. "The Council demands results. Either complete your mission or face the consequences of failure." As the transmission ended, alarms blared across the command deck. "Multiple incoming objects, Commander." Tactical Officer Zurin shouted. "Earth has launched. Wait. These readings can't be correct." "Report, Officer. They've loaded their primitive chemical rockets with delivery drones, sir. Thousands of them." "Delivery drones," Krell repeated, bewildered. "Yes, Commander. Each carrying small packages labeled, 'Same-day delivery, special surprise for alien invaders.'" The view screen showed the drones swarming toward Dravik's ships, bypassing defense systems designed to target conventional weapons. As they attached themselves to hull plating, each drone deployed its package compact, crude but devastatingly effective explosive devices. "They're using commercial technology as weapons platforms," Engineer Krax realized, horrified admiration in his voice. "Our defenses are calibrated for military-grade threats, not pizza delivery services." Across the fleet, secondary explosions blossomed as the human improvisational weapons found their marks. 3 cruisers had already begun uncontrolled descents into Earth's atmosphere. "Commander," Strategy Officer Vrex said quietly, "I believe we need to consider a tactical withdrawal. These humans, they're not prey. They're something else entirely." Krell stared at the tactical display, watching his mighty invasion force being systematically dismantled by a species that, by all logical standards, should have been conquered within hours. The realization that struck him was more painful than any wound he'd suffered in combat. The Draviks had spent millennia evolving into perfect predators, specialized and optimized killing machines. But humans had evolved to be adaptable generalists, ready for any challenge, willing to try absolutely anything, and possessing the unique cognitive chaos to make it work. "All ships," Krell finally ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of unprecedented defeat. "Prepare for emergency hyperspace jump. We are withdrawing." As the final meal shuddered under another barrage of improvised human weapons, Krell had one final disturbing thought. If the Draviks were the galaxy's apex predators, what exactly did that make humans? 6 months after what humans had enthusiastically dubbed the most disappointing alien invasion ever, Commander Krell stood before the High Council of the Dravik's Empire. His once gleaming armor was scuffed and battle-worn, his posture lacking the predatory confidence that had once defined him. "Let me understand this correctly," Supreme Predator Thex said, her voice dripping with barely contained fury. "Not only did you fail to subjugate this primitive world, but now these humans are pushing into our territory." "They call it returning the favor," Krell replied wearily. "After we retreated, they reverse-engineered our damaged ships, and developed their own hyperspace technology in approximately 14 Earth days." "Impossible," shouted Council Member Vriz. "It took our greatest scientists 3 centuries to perfect hyperspace travel. The humans did it over something called weekend hackathons fueled by energy drinks and pizza," Krell explained. "They made an entertainment competition out of it. The winning team received something called bragging rights and limited edition t-shirts." The council chamber fell into stunned silence. On the central holo display, footage showed human ships, cobbled together from salvaged Dravex technology, Earth materials, and what appeared to be repurposed household appliances, establishing outposts across former Dravex territory. Most concerning, Krell continued, is that other species are rallying to them. The Zygonians, the Plex Collective, even the usually neutral Mebari, all have formed alliances with Earth. Why? Demanded Gorks, his ancient face contorted with bewilderment. What could these soft, clawless creatures offer that would entice established galactic powers? Apparently, Commander Krell replied. They offered something called Netflix and chill, authentic Earth cuisine, and meme-sharing privileges. The Zygonian ambassador was particularly excited about something called cat videos. Supreme Predator Razak leaned forward. And what of our military response? Surely our reserve fleets can crush this human expansion. We've tried. Exalted One, Krell admitted. 3 counter-offensives, each larger than the last, all defeated. The humans don't fight like any species we've encountered. They've developed weapons specifically designed to target Dravex weaknesses we didn't even know we had. Such as, the X demanded. They weaponize something called bubble wrap. Krell explained, his voice hollow with residual trauma. The sound it makes when compressed triggers an ancient predatory response in our auditory systems. Entire battalions of our finest warriors were reduced to disoriented, nauseous wrecks while humans played Pop Goes the Weasel over their communication systems. On the holo display, the footage changed to show something even more disturbing, humans and Dravex together, not in combat but in what appeared to be social interaction. What is this abomination? Gorks snarled. They've established diplomatic relations with our outer colonies. Krell explained, offering cultural exchange, trade agreements, and something called interspecies mixer nights. And our people accepted this. The X asked, aghast, enthusiastically. Exalted One, it seems humans have identified a societal need we never acknowledged. They call it work-life balance and having actual fun. 3 provincial governors have already requested permission to establish permanent human embassies. The council exchanged horrified glances as the full implications became clear. Not only had humans defeated the Dravex militarily, they were now subverting them culturally. We must take decisive action, declared Thex. Mobilize the entire Imperial fleet. We will crush these humans once and for. She was interrupted by the sudden appearance of a human figure on the holo display. A female, in what appeared to be casual attire rather than formal diplomatic dress. Hey there, Supreme Predators. The human greeted them cheerfully. Ambassador Rodriguez here. Hope I'm not interrupting anything important. How dare you breach our secure communications? The X roared. Oh that. Rodriguez replied, waving dismissively. Your encryption was cute. Our teenagers cracked it while doing something called procrastinating homework. Anyway, I'm calling about your imminent decisive action. We'd really prefer if you didn't do that. Your preferences are irrelevant. Gorks snarled. The Dravex Empire has ruled this galaxy for millennia. We will not be dictated to by primitive mammals. Yeah, about that, Rodriguez continued, her tone still irritatingly casual. We've taken the liberty of upgrading your outdated definition of apex predator. See, traditional predators like yourselves focus on physical domination. Teeth, claws, fancy biological weapons. Very impressive stuff, truly. Your point, human. The X demanded. My point is that humans evolved differently. We became apex predators not through physical attributes, but through adaptability, cooperation, and what we call thinking outside the box. Or occasionally hold my beer and watch this. The holo display split to show multiple scenes of human innovation throughout history. Primitive humans using tools, agricultural development, industrial revolution, digital age, and finally their rapid adaptation of Dravex technology. So here's our offer, Rodriguez continued. Option 1. You continue your decisive action. We continue embarrassing you across the galaxy, and eventually host the first intergalactic barbecue on your homeworld. Option 2. Formal alliance, cultural exchange, trade agreements, and we teach you how to make something called ice cream. Your provincial governors already voted for option 2, by the way, unanimously. The council sat in stunned silence until Razak finally spoke. You would share your knowledge with us, after we attempted to conquer your world. Water under the bridge, Rodriguez replied with a shrug. Humans have a long history of becoming best friends with people who tried to kill us. It's kind of our thing. And if we refuse? The X asked, her voice notably less confident. Rodriguez smiled. Then we introduce the rest of the galaxy to something called reality televisions featuring your invasion attempts. The working title is Dravex Dynasty, When Predators Become Prey. Our media department is really excited about the potential ratings. The council chamber erupted into arguments, but the outcome was already becoming clear. The Dravex Empire, mighty, feared and unchallenged for millennia, had finally met a species that redefined what it meant to be at the top of the galactic food chain. 3 weeks later, the first human Dravex Cultural Center opened on the Dravex homeworld. The main attraction, a historical exhibit titled, When Predators Met Pranksters, The Invasion That Wasn't. And across the galaxy, a new saying began to spread among spacefaring species. There are two kinds of predators in the universe: those who know not to mess with humans, and those who haven't met them yet. Commander Krell, surprisingly, found a new career as a cross-species liaison officer. His best-selling memoir, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Humans, became required reading at the Dravex Military Academy, with its infamous opening line, "The most dangerous species in the galaxy doesn't have claws, armor or venom. It has creativity, coffee, and what they call the audacity."